start my presentation by showing you this picture. Whenever you are traveling in Uzbekistan, this is probably the last thing you'll see on every road, which means, if you read it in Uzbek, it's Ok Yul, which literally means white road, and is translated into English as have a nice trip. So today we'll talk about immigration of Crème de la Crème in Uzbekistan. And obviously people go to various destinations, but I think what is most important is the consequences for Uzbekistan out of this phenomenon. Well, international migration displays two interesting tendencies. One is the increased selectivity towards the highly skilled labor, and the second one is the feminization of migration flows. Belgian scientist Duker in 2007, he actually collected the data on growth rates of highly skilled women in total immigration stock as compared to men and women who don't have education. And they collected data for all different regions in the world, and as you can notice, the bar in red shows you that for many different regions, actually it's apparent that women, highly skilled women in total immigration stock is actually higher than the proportion of women without education or highly skilled men. But what is more interesting is the data from Central Asia, which appears here. So I think this is a very vivid and self-speaking bar chart, which tells you the urgency of exploring the issue further. I was able to pull out the data for Uzbekistan, specifically the numbers, and construct this graph for Uzbekistan. So you can see from this data that actually the percentage of women, highly skilled women who is immigrating, is much higher than the percentage of men, and there is the gender gap is widening in years, which actually urged me for further investigation of the issue and to answer the question, what are the consequences of immigration of highly skilled women in Uzbekistan? And let me introduce you my methodology. I actually conducted a study which was qualitative in nature, and I did 18 in-depth interviews with both equal number of men and women in my sample. And I used snowball sampling to select my participants. So who is my typical respondent? Let's see. So this usually it's a PhD holder in natural, social, or applied sciences. These people, they migrated from Uzbekistan independently on their own. They in immigration from 4 to 19 years. Their family members are still in Uzbekistan, and they did their undergraduate degrees in Uzbekistan, the majority of them, and they pursued their studies towards master's degree and PhDs abroad. So what triggers actually the differences, gender differences in migration is gender inequality. And Uzbekistan can be described as a conservative and traditional society. And when I asked my participants, female participants specifically, what was the attitude of other people towards their decision to immigrate, I found out that many of them actually expressed the fact that there are some societal pressures. For example, just to illustrate, I would like to quote one of my female participants. Some of the relatives were telling my parents, "How come? You went crazy. Where it can be seen. How can you allow your married daughter to go somewhere abroad to study?" And then, if it was true for unmarried single young ladies, then when I talked to already married females, I found similar responses. For example, There were too many accusing talks when I was leaving. According to traditional cultural belief system, a daughter does not abandon her mother, a wife does not abandon her husband. It was against the flow, and I still know what people are saying about me in Uzbekistan. So you can feel from these quotes these societal pressures that women in Uzbekistan have, especially if they decide to make such an independent move of going abroad. And this is one side of the coin, and another side is professional opportunities for women in Uzbekistan. And although some women were quite optimistic, and they told me that given certain efforts, they can succeed in Uzbekistan, it's interesting to see how actually males perceive what is going on. So I asked my male participants very simple question. If you were a woman, and what I saw that many of them, they were perplexed by the question, they were really surprised, and they didn't kind of like expect such kind of question. But then all the responses were very similar. Some of the responses were very sharp. I will read a quote for you. If I were a woman, there would be no career plan in Uzbekistan for me. And another one, he elaborated a little bit more. In our patriarchal, very conservative society, of course, it is much more difficult for a woman career-wise. Many husbands do not favor a situation when their wife works, for example. In many cases, a woman just does not decide and doesn't have freedom of choice. Family plays a huge role in our society, of course, and it influences women's career choices. So you see from this kind of perceptions, societal perceptions in Uzbekistan, that migration sometimes is used as a leverage against gender inequality in the country, and women, they try to move out, especially when we are talking about highly qualified women. There is a debate in literature on negative and positive consequences of highly skilled immigration, called as referred to as brain drain and brain gain. And interestingly enough, in my research, I did not find considerable gender differences in this debate. So I explore and I focus on 6 main factors pertaining to either brain drain or brain gain. And here I would like to go one by one. So we'll start from brain drain. The first argument and main factor is occupational shortages. So it is actually argued that occupational shortages and the fact that more people, highly skilled people, migrate from the country can actually lead to deteriorated economic development and also can hinder productivity growth. We can see that some signs of what is happening already in Uzbekistan. So there is some certain skills mismatch on labor market. The World Bank in 2014 conducted a research, a survey of 232 employers in Uzbekistan, and they found that, for example, if you can see it, like 49% of industrial enterprises already experience the difficulties in finding sufficient number of highly skilled personnel with higher education. And these findings are quite alarming already. Next are the social consequences of the fact that more and more women are leaving, for example. And it can also badly impact the future development of the country, especially social development, since high educated women are capable of bringing up higher educated children, and thus influence the formation of human capital in the country. Let's move now to brain gain and the argument of diasporas. So it is well documented that diasporas, they have a very good impact on the sending country through the flow of capital, goods, ideas when diasporas become already established in some other countries. For Uzbekistan, I found very interesting thing that Uzbeks, they tend to disintegrate from each other while they are abroad, and especially highly skilled Uzbeks. And this may be related to the fact that they can very well integrate into the society in which they're living now, in the foreign society, because they're well educated, they speak foreign languages very well, so they don't have the need. But to illustrate what is going on, I will read a quote of one of my participants. "I try to keep distance. I have burned my fingers already. When you meet people from your country, there is a tendency of exaggerated familiarity. Sometimes there are judgments and controlling aspects, especially from the side of men from Uzbekistan, and it is not pleasant." So this is just to illustrate. So I can conclude that at the moment we can't claim that there is a positive impact of Uzbek diasporas, but at the same time Uzbek diasporas are still very young because we are a young country. Since independence, it's since 1991, so probably critical mass is not yet reached, and this is the reason. Moving on to investments, there is also an argument in literature that actually nationals of the country, they can invest into certain country and greatly benefit the economic development through investments. When I talked to my participants, many of them, they were very happy to invest in Uzbekistan, and just to quote one of them, when I asked, do you plan to invest in Uzbekistan in the future, one male participant, he answered, "I'm already doing that. I'm not getting any profit perhaps, other than getting prosperous country in which I would like to retire one day." So this is this shows you actually what is going on, and the perception of Uzbek migrants who live abroad. They really want to contribute and to invest, but then when I probed them further, it turned out that it's many of them were claiming that nowadays, at a very certain moment, investment climate might not be very favorable. There can be too many risks around, but still they prefer to do non-monetary contributions, and it becomes apparent that from the side of highly skilled immigrants, non-monetary contributions, at least at this point of time, prevail over financial injections or launching or starting new businesses. Let's move on further to the argument of remittances. So it's very well documented that in some countries, remittances, they already outperform the role of foreign assistance, and they actually impact the GDPs of many countries. However, when I talked to my respondents, it turned out that most of them, they don't remit, or they, if they remit, it happens on a not systematic way, and only if there is some emergency. So we can't really say that highly qualified people from Uzbekistan, they do remit. This is very alarming sign. However, it was already proved in the literature, and many authors, they found that highly skilled immigrants, they tend not to remit because they have different reasons to go abroad rather than labor migrants who go abroad. So we can't say that the positive aspect of remittances outweigh the negative aspects of immigration. Let's move on to return migration. Well, actually, at some point of time, those people who are abroad, they can come back, and they certainly can contribute to the country because it's human capital who is coming back with fresh ideas and lots of experience. And I asked my participants how do they feel, whether they want to come back at some certain point of time or not. And here are some responses again. Everyone wants to come back to her home country. This wish is always present. You know, the thought of no return is very scary for me. I have not given up on my country and on myself. I think I can contribute, I think I should contribute, and I hope I will have all the courage soon enough to go back. So I think this two quotes, they really show the moods of Uzbek immigrants abroad. However, when I probed my participants further, I noticed that these return intentions, they are conditional on many factors. For example, just to note one, is the opportunity to find a job in Uzbekistan. And myself, I could understand very well how difficult it can be whenever you return from a foreign country and you start looking a job in Uzbekistan. It's not easy. And the second argument is that many of them, they had children born in foreign countries. So with the years, it becomes more and more difficult to go back because of these reasons, because children kind of like become citizens of another country and they don't have this emotional ties anymore. So it is still questionable what will happen. Well, to conclude, I think it's very apparent that in the short run, Uzbekistan is experiencing some negative consequences from the fact that more and more people, highly qualified people, are leaving the country. But at the same time, greater mobility gives more opportunities to Uzbek citizens, and if Uzbek citizens can prosper, so the country will. And in the long run, I'm sure that there is a potential of this phenomenon to transform into brain gain for Uzbekistan, and country can benefit a lot from all the highly qualified people who are staying abroad now. And in this regard, I have some policy recommendations. First, to the government, it's a boost in research investments, so that people who are involved into research and science can have an incentive to come back permanently or temporarily to do some projects, doesn't matter. Secondly, reintegration of professionals, and here it's very important the streamlining or the procedure of degree validation, foreign degree validation in Uzbekistan, because some foreign degrees, they are not recognized in the country, and it becomes a certain issue for Uzbek citizens who did their studies abroad. Third, creation of centers of excellence, so that scientists who now work abroad can be attracted by a certain level of these centers. And finally, the streamlining of visa procedures. And here especially I talk about exit visas and probably the introduction of fast-track procedures for exit visas, which can be done in the embassies of Uzbekistan abroad, as opposed to the fact that people have to go back to the country in order to get these visas. I also have the recommendation to the embassies of Uzbekistan abroad, and especially I think that embassies have a great role in strengthening Uzbek diasporas. They are already doing in various countries. When I talk to my participants, I identified that embassies play a great role. They are doing many social events. They gather people together for some holidays, national holidays. However, what can be done more is certainly for example, organization of some thematic workshop which will gather, for example, chemistry scientists around the table to discuss. So I think Uzbek embassies should put the emphasis on strengthening the diasporas and organizing some events. And to the international organizations, gender mainstreaming should be introduced in all the programs that they are doing in Uzbekistan, and probably some specific programs and more emphasis on this issue should be put. So that's all, and basically I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I would welcome questions from you. Thank you.